Alright, well, the other day when I went for a ride up to the store, I came out of the store, got back on my bike and hit my starter button, and the starter button flew off and went out into the parking lot. So after about 30 minutes of searching from me and half the people coming out of the store, I found the little starter button. And so what's happened is it's gotten old, because it's about 40 years old, plastic, and the side broke off. So today we're going to change out my starter button so I can get this bike back started up and we can get back on the road. So let's get zoomed in here. It's not so complicated to do, but it's something you don't want to drink a bunch of coffee and then try to do, because it's just going to get on your nerves with all the little fiddling and all the little screws and stuff you got to take on and off and get everything out of the way. But it's not too hard to do, easier to do on the bike. That way you don't have to disconnect the wiring. We'll just flip it over and get inside of there and get that button switched out. So let's get set up a little bit closer in there and we can see about changing this button out. Alright, so we're zoomed down in here and hopefully I can lay it open and we can see on the camera. If not, I'll move the camera around. But in order to get it off, there's just two screws that hold it, and so we just got to take it loose from the handlebars. So now, let's see if we can lay this thing open, and so we can get that button changed out. So what we're going to do is spin it around like that. So, got pretty good access. We don't even have to take the throttle loose. Right inside of here is the little screw that holds the button assembly on, so no big deal. We just have to take that screw out. And this is where the not drinking coffee part comes into play, because you'll need to get a little pair of tweezers or something, and you can pick that screw up, take him out of there. Let's set him aside. So now the little button assembly would theoretically pop up, but the wires are in the way. And so now what we got to do is take that one loose so we can get the plate up, get the wires out of the way so we can pick the button up. So let's take him loose. Not a difficult job at all. Like I say, just got a tedious little screws to get out of there. Now we get the wire pushed out of the way, and we pick up our little locking plate. He comes off, and so now we could access the wires and get them out of the way. So when the wires come up, also comes the button assembly, so he's right there, and inside is the spring, which I got to keep, so we'll put that down on her. And inside of there was what was left of my button. So in order to put a new button in, what we got to do is take this little housing apart right here. So all I'm going to do is go to the smaller side right here and just open it up off the catch, and you can see the back side of it comes off the front. So what we're going to do is put our button assembly in there. So we get our new button, and we'll put our new button in our little housing like that right there, and then we get our little spring. So we got our button in the housing and a little spring, and the little end of the spring goes towards the button like that. And now we just take this little guy and put him back together. So we're gonna push that and hook it back up on the lock. Hopefully without springing the spring out. And then on the side that we bent open, we just push it back in and bend it back. And there we go. We got our new button. So we can push the little button and it should start the bike. So we just put all that back together and we should be in good shape. Alright, so we got our new little button put on. He's all pinched in. So now what we got to do is the bottom of this button right here fits down into a little channel in the bottom of the housing. And so what you got to do is get the button in there, and then you got to get it locked into that housing. And so this one's a little bit cruddy, so what I'm going to do is clean that out a little bit so I can get that button to lock down in there. If you don't get it locked down in there, then the button's going to sit crooked. Alright, so now let's see if we can get our button down in there, and it has to be seated all the way in the bottom. So let's set it back up, and we'll put him underneath those wires. And what you got to do is put the button head through the hole. That's what I say, this is extremely annoying. You got to get the button head into the housing hole. And then after you do that, you got to get the whole assembly down into the bottom. If not, the button's not gonna work properly. Let's push him till we get him to come through. So now you can see the button has come through. But what I got to do is get the whole assembly down into the bottom down there. So this is where I need my flashlight to see at what point I get that locked down in the groove. So I'm not in there yet. So what I got to do is take something and push it forward and try to get the whole button assembly down into the little pocket down in the bottom. And it'll be a tight fit, but once you get it, then the button will be straight and you'll know it. So there we go. So now we're locked down into the bottom. You just want to push on it for good measure. And this is the most critical part, is to get that seated down in there. And as you can see, the button is straight. So now we just put the screw back in that holds the button. And tighten him down. And just check and make sure that the little tab in the bottom didn't hop out of its little groove down there. So we're still good. And now we can wrap our wires back around and put everything back together. So the red wires go around like that. Around that post in the middle. And then we got to get the clamp back on and the screw. So let's clamp him back together. Let's put the clamp back in. And that extra wire goes on top of the clamp. And we put a screw back on. Through the wire and through the clamp. And line everything up and we tighten it back down. So there we go. So now we got our new button installed. He's sitting up nice and straight like he's supposed to, which indicates that it's not crooked. And we can put everything back together. So let's give it all this the last little tighten. And we're ready to put it back on. So just spin it back around on the throttle. There we go. Got our throttle back locked. Put our little cover back on. We'll start with the one that goes on the back that holds the throttle cable as well. And we can do the one for the front. Tighten everything back up. And there we go. So now we have successfully changed out our little button. So, let's move back the camera a little bit. Alright, so there we go. Got our homemade DIY button put on there. Kind of cool being clear. I could have made it out of black plastic, I guess, but I kind of like it being clear. So we'll fire it up one more time just for giggles and check our button. And there we go. Well, alright. Well, thanks for watching.